objective 3 in more on rational number arithmetic. We need to change this decimal into a fraction. So we take the numbers 46, the numbers behind the decimal, put them in the numerator. There's 2 numbers behind the decimal. That means we need 2 zeros on the bottom. So we get 46 out of 100. Now we need to reduce that. I know for sure that 2 goes into both of those. So I divide by 2. 46 divided by 2 is 23. 100 divided by 2 is 50. And that is the most that I can reduce that. Nothing else goes into 23 and 50. And let's look at one more. Okay, we have 0.9 as a fraction, so 9 goes in the numerator. There's 1 number behind the decimal, so we put 1 0. That simply turns into 9/10. We can't reduce that. Nothing goes into 9 and 10 except for 1. So that's reduced as much as possible. Our second link, we have a mixed number, or we have a decimal, we have to make it into a mixed number. So 12 is the whole number in front of the decimal, so we just leave that as a whole number. Then 28 goes in the numerator, and there's 2 numbers behind the decimal, so we need 2 zeros on the bottom. So 12 and 28 100ths. Now I know that 2 can go into both of those, so I divide by 2. I get 12 and 14 over 50. Now I know that 2 can still go into those, so I divide by 2 again. We get 12 and 7/25. Okay, maybe you could see right away that 4 goes into both of those, so then you could have divided by 4 right away and got 7/25. Either way, it's going to work. We'll put in our mixed number 12 and 7/25. Good. And 4.08 as a mixed number. 4 is the whole number, so that's going to be the big number out front. Then we have 8 as our numerator. 2 places behind the decimal, 2 numbers behind the decimal, so 2 zeros in the bottom. Now we can divide both of those by 4. So we get 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And 100 divided by 4 is 25. So it reduces or simplifies to 4 and 2/25. All right, our third link, we need to put these in order. Okay, so A is farthest to the left, so that would be the smallest number. C is the farthest to the right, so that would be the biggest. Okay, so you might need to convert these in order to figure out what order they need to go in. So -2/8, we can change that to a decimal. That'd be negative, divide the top by the bottom, be -0.25. And then the second one is already in decimal form, -0.2. We can add a 0 so that they have the same number of decimal places. I'm going to do 3 divided by 7. That's going to be -0. And this decimal keeps going on, but we can round to 0.43. Okay? And that was -3/7. Okay, so what's the smallest? The farthest to the left would be the number that is farthest away from 0, and to the left, which would be -0.43. So that would be -3/7. So we put that where A is. The next one in line would be -2/8, which is -0.25. And then the one that's closest to 0, which would be the biggest, because these are negative, is -0.2, which is C right there. All right, order the following from least to greatest. Those are in decimal form already. That's great. I would put -9/2 into decimal form. That'd be -4.5. Okay, so what would be the smallest? Would be negative 5.2. That's the farthest to the left on the number line. Then it would be negative 4.75, and then the closest to 0 is negative 4.5. So those would be in order. And our last link, we need to enter each answer as an exact decimal or simplified fraction. Okay, I'm going to change these to decimals. So I'll do top divided by the bottom on 6/50ths, which is 0.12. So 1.3 plus 0.12. When we add those, we're going to line up our decimals. Put in a 0 there so everything's lined up. We get 2, 4, 1.42. They're like, they're both positive. We just add and keep the positive. Okay, again, I'm going to change everything to decimals. I think that's the easiest way to add them all together. So 185 divided by 100 would be 1.85. 50%, move the decimal twice to the left. So that'd be 0.5. You can put the 0 behind it. You don't have to. 4%, move the decimal twice to the left, would be 0.04. Let's add those all together. So 1.85 plus 0.50 and 0.04. Line those up. 4 plus 5 is 9. 8 plus 5 is 13. Carry the 1. 2.39 is what that turns out to be. All right. That's all we have for examples. Good luck on your practice.